Hi, welcome to today's episode where we are going to deep dive on surveys. Okay, surveys, guys, are so important. I would say that they are as important as home inspections. I would, absolutely. And all surveys, just like all home inspections, are not created equal. If you are purchasing a property on any size of land, acreage, you really need to think about having a survey. There are so many things that can go wrong that you have never even thought of. And so we're going to chat about a few of those things today. So first and foremost, when you are purchasing a home and you ask the seller to provide a survey, you need to be specific as to what your expectations are for that survey. If you just simply say, we'd like a survey, I am really shocked that 80% of those come back and it does not show anything other than just a square box or a rectangle or however the land is shaped. It doesn't actually show where the home is located on the survey, where the pond is located on the survey, where the fences are located on the survey, because you did not ask correctly. It's just saying, yes, you are getting 5.63 acres. Okay. The issue is that then when you go to sell and you find out that the pond is not completely on your property, then it can be an issue. The fence is not completely on your property, it can be an issue. Not even when you go to sell, but after you move in and the neighbor comes over and tells you these things, it can be an issue. So there is what's called a mortgage inspection report, and I'm pretty comfortable with those if you're purchasing a home in town. However, I will tell you, do not ever close without the mortgage inspection report or the survey, because if you can't get it prior to closing, the chances are, what is that, Murphy's Law? Is it Murphy's Law? Murphy's Law says that there will be a problem with the mortgage inspection report. For example, the shop building is 1 foot over the property line onto the neighbor's lot. Why is that an issue for you? Because now you cannot get title insurance without an exception to that. So what that means is that if that neighbor sells and the new owner comes in and or even the current neighbor and throws a fit about the shop building being on your property, on their property, then you have to deal with that legally, and that can be a financial issue. So getting the report so that you know if there's an exception and that possibly you can get the exception waived, then that's really important. So going back to a true survey, my recommendation is that your purchase offer states that buyer or seller, however you've negotiated that out, to provide a pin stake survey that shows all improvements. That would be if they made a pond or if there's a pond on it. All structures, that would be the barn, the shed, the shop, the house, any structures. The fences, I'm really shocked at how many surveys do not show the fences. And the fences are the things that you have to deal with after closing when you find out that the fence is not the true property line. So again, it should say, buyer or seller at whoever expense to provide a pin stake survey that shows all improvements, all structures, all fences, and all easements. And I would even go a step further if there's a question about a water right or a waterway, such as a creek or a pond. I would even put that in there just to be 100% sure. Because if you think the creek is on your property and the survey comes back and it doesn't actually show where that creek is and there are no fences, so you can't really tell, I think it's really important to know, is the creek on your property or is the creek only on your property when it floods out? Either way, it's important for you to know. Some things that you don't think about is you think, okay, well, I'm not buying 10 acres. I'm buying a half an acre, but it's never been surveyed. and the house is built toward the back of the property line, and there are several outbuildings, and there is a well in the front yard. That is a major red flag for me, because now I'm questioning, where is the septic and where are the lateral lines? What happens so often in these rural areas is a family will have 10 acres and they'll gift a half an acre to a family member. That family will build a home and put their septic in the backyard and go ahead and run the lateral lines out into mom's field. Guys, here's the thing. You don't own that field. And if you don't have an easement for your lateral lines to be on their field or in their field, when something goes wrong with your lateral lines, it's going to be difficult for you to gain access and go over and start digging up those lateral lines when it's on someone else's property. So these are the kind of hidden things that you may not have ever thought about that could become a major expense for you. We've actually had that exact thing happen. We had a homeowner contact us, and they were thinking about putting the home on the market, and they chose to do a home inspection prior to closing because they knew they were having some septic issues. The septic inspector came out and determined that when they purchased the home, the lateral lines were on the neighbor's property, and now they needed to dig them up and replace some of them. And honestly and truly, they had gotten crushed because something the neighbor was doing on the neighbor's land, but these lateral lines were over there, and it became kind of a big mess. So these are things that if you don't have home inspections or a survey after closing, these things pop up and they can be very, very expensive. So I know you think you're saving money by not doing a mortgage inspection report or by not doing a survey, but think about that, guys. If you don't pay $800 for a survey or $450 for a mortgage inspection certificate, how much are you going to have to pay the neighbor when you have to go over onto their property and dig up those lateral lines? So you're really not necessarily saving money, and you could really be getting into a big mess. So these are hidden issues when it comes to surveys. Going back to the title insurance, most people can get title insurance even if you don't do a survey. However, there will be exceptions. And the number one exception that I see is the actual access, the legal access to the property. You assume that, well, there's a driveway to the house, but if you're crossing someone else's property and you're on that driveway, you need to make sure that there is a legal easement. And that's why I say state that specifically, that all easements. Regarding easements, the other thing that has come up is to find out that there is a water line that runs underneath your property. And I mean underneath a structure. So when and if that water line ever needs to be worked on, then your structure, the person who actually, rural water department or the city, does not actually owe you anything if they have to remove a portion of your structure to get to that water line, because they have an easement, and at some point someone chose to go ahead and build on that. So knowing these things up front, really, really important. Now, the other thing that I see is people say, well, it's new construction, so I don't really have to worry about it. Guess what? You still need to worry about it. We've had numerous issues where when the home was being built, it was built over a setback line. And that is an issue. And it happens a lot of times in like a cul-de-sac when the road is curved or the street is curved, and the builder just makes a mathematical error and doesn't come back far enough, and the front corner of the home is over the property line. Yes, it's all fixable, but it takes money and time to fix it. The other thing that will happen is sometimes the corner of your home will be built over your actual property line as opposed to your setback line. Typically, this happens more with a shop building, or if the home footprint gets expanded during the process. So be very, very aware of that, because again, After it's done, you can't change the footing of your home. You can't move your shop building, and now you are encroaching on your neighbor. Again, yes, it can be corrected, but it's going to cost money and time. So these are the things that, not to scare you, but kind of to make you highly aware of how important a mortgage inspection report and or a survey is when you're purchasing, so that you truly understand what you're taking on. Love the question, why should I get a survey? The cost, the second part of that question was, what is the average cost of a survey? I can't really answer that because it depends so much on location and the topography. If you have 2 acres in the middle of nowhere and it's in a ravine, it's going to be really expensive. If you have a half-acre lot in town, it's going to be much, much less expensive. But your title company, your realtor can work with your title company to get you a couple of different bids and see what makes the most sense for you there. So, love the question. Thank you so much. As always, please like, follow, and share, and keep the questions coming. Thanks, guys.